Hello, everybody. I'm back. And I used to say, like a bad habit, I'm back. So it is so good to be with you all today. So I'm hoping that people got my little note because I was upstairs. There were so many pictures to download, and I thought, there's no way I'm going to be able to get here on time. So I hope you got my message, and it's so good to see. Oh, Mitty, I didn't send an email to Mitty because I thought, well, I'm not sure she'll be there, but next time I will send an email to Mitty too. So evidently, I've got a doggie trying to lay on. She wants to lay on that blankie. She's like, that's a nice blankie. Do you see that little girl? Oh, and there's a patch of sun on it. So that would feel very special to them. But this is my exploding heart quilt that I made 2 years ago at Myrtle Beach Quilt Party. And I was so proud to be able to take it back and to show it to everyone that I had finished it. And it's funny, I took that quilt plus I took my Alaska quilt that I did in last year's class, and I something is not right, and I just realized I don't have my seat cushion on. So, because all of a sudden it's like, well, everything's off today. But I told Mark, when you take some time off, everything feels new and weird. But I will get through it today. But there's our Cheryl. Oh, Cheryl saw the note. Good. And Lisa's here. Let me tell you, our poor Lisa was so ill during the quilt party. When she the first night she came up, I thought, oh my goodness, if I had sounded as bad as she did, I'd have been back in my bed saying, forget this. So let me clean this lens real quickly. So anyway, so the next day when she didn't show up for class, I thought, uh-huh, she's not Superwoman after all. She's just a close second. But it was good to see Lisa. We had a couple times to share some moments. And speaking of that, there is a little something I have here. If you're ever lucky enough, you'll meet someone like Lisa. She is so generous. Now, I gave her a little gift. Any of you who saw my um my little show from the hotel, I was showing the little necklaces with the sparrows that matched the quilt we were working on. But that was just a tiny gift. Let me show you what she brought me. I don't deserve it. I have to be honest. Oh my goodness. This woman, look at this. First thing, the box itself is gorgeous. Look at it with the beautiful bronzed corners. Oh, I love this box. Then you know that the French General fabrics are quite dear to my heart. Oh my gosh. Look at what she got for me. Oh my gosh, people. I was like, you're kidding. I mean, do you remember last year she gave me a box full of landscape fabrics? I mean, chock-a-block full. And then look at a pocket hug. Isn't that wonderful? I'm going to find a very special place for this so it stays close all the time. And then look at the itty bitty charm pack. Isn't that just so darn cute? So I just thought I would show you this. I tell you, this is very, very special from our Miss Lisa. And I can't wait. I'm going to make something very special just for me with that beautiful fabric. And then the box will always, I mean, it's going to be wonderful. I can put special things in it. I like the fact that the lid holds open so I could put something special. You know how Pat Fry decorates her truck? Speaking of that, I saw she had decorated it for Valentine's Day, but I didn't download the pictures, I don't think. So that is so special. And I need to get very busy and send a thank you card. My mother would not be pleased with me for not having sent it yet. So Lisa is a doll baby. I tell you what, I was like, oh man, I'm not I'm not as good a gift giver as our Miss Lisa is, but I love it. It was very special. And in fact, I was so determined this year that I was going to get more done in class. I did the sparrow quilt and I thought, well, the sparrow quilt looks pretty straightforward and pretty simple. Do you know what my favorite tool was this class? I mean, the seam ripper. It looked simple, it looked easy, but guess what? It Because the birds are turning one way and then the next, it became tricky. And I have used the seam ripper more with that quilt than I probably did. Well, the last 2 years I used the seam ripper for this heart quilt, the exploding heart, and the Alaska quilt. And I'm sorry I didn't bring the Alaska quilt back down, but it's hanging back up in the living room. And I love that quilt. I am so glad that I went with my gut instinct and made it in my favorite colors because, in fact, when we did show and tell, I heard some murmurs in the crowd. They really liked that colorway in the Alaska quilt. So I did good by listening to myself and saying, I don't want to use the normal colors. I want to use something special. And not always do my gut instincts prove right, but I'm on the right track. So I will be showing you, I've gotten half of it put together. When I go to a class, I listen to the teacher, and she wanted us to make a complete block first. And I agree with that because there were a couple little tricky things about the pattern that you needed to know, which I'll show you when I show you the quilt. But I agreed with that method, is make sure you can put the quilt, each block together. And then she wanted to make sure that when we got to the reverse blocks that we understood. And she did give us a really good tip, which is if you look at the back side of the first way direction you make the bird, that if you follow the back side, it helps you get reoriented to make the block face the other way. So that was a very good tip. And I'll show you all of that when I show you my quilt that I've done. But after that, when I'm in class, I tend to get kind of quiet and sit over by myself and do my own thing because I tend to be a kind of linear person, start at the beginning and work through. And when I'm at that class and you have 16 components to make that then go together and the reason you make the components is because the birds have 3 to 4 colors in them, not counting beak and tail. And so you have to have, I'll show you when I show you the block. Well, why don't I go ahead and show you now? I'm talking about it. So, okay, I'm going to bring the camera down and show you what I mean about components. Have you ever noticed when you're making a quilt, there are threads everywhere? I love picking off threads. I am a thread ninja. Now, let me bring this camera over. Okay, so here is one block. Okay, one block right here. Now, it has this component that has the beak in it. Okay, And so since the birds go two different ways, you have to make a mirror image block of this for the next bird, which, as you see, goes the opposite way. So see that? So you have this component you put together. Whoop, let me bring this up a little. Okay. All right. So you have the beak row. Then you have this and this. This component, well, actually, this is made, this little eye goes in between two fabrics. So this, and you have a lot of half square triangles. I didn't get out of them for this time. So anyway, you got this component, this two components put together, this component separately, and I'll show you why. Then this component you put together, then this one, then this one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you have your sashing. So it's got a lot of components. And the reason I wanted to have all my components done first is because the bird is a mix of your colors. The colors that I took for the bird, of course, the gold for the little beak and the tail, that stays the same for each bird. Then I had these little flying geese that stayed the same, the dark blue and the lighter blue. But the bird had a choice of dark blue, a light sage, and a light rose, and a off-white. I know, isn't that little bird just the cutest? I love this little bird. So by having all the components, then you could decide, okay, what color do I make the next bird? So now what I'm going to do is bring the camera back up, and I'm going to stand up and show you what I've made so far. Now, talking about this bird, I want you to know that one lady, let me get as much, okay. Here we go. Here's, whoops, let me get that little bird. So here I've done half of the quilt. So it's going to be 3 more rows. So it's 4 across, 6 down. Then I've got to decide, what do I want to use for my borders? So that's going to be a big decision. But you know me, I'm not real big on scrappy quilts. That even means 4 fabrics. So trying to figure out where to put one fabric is tricky. So I'm finding now that what I'm doing is I'm making bird at a time. And I'm making them upstairs where I can lay this on my long arm and then go. I can look what was the row before it, what was the block before it. So I keep moving the colors, and it's not the specific colors, it's the value. So I want to make sure, because there was a picture that I used to pull out my colors, but I noticed a couple, I call them dead zones, where there wasn't enough of the bright component. Let me show you what I mean. I wanted to scatter my whites and my pinks. They are the ones that catch your eye first. But then I also wanted to make sure I did a good mix of the light sage green and the dark blue. So that's what I'm working on now. The white really makes it pop. The pink is interest. So I just want to make sure to move them around. Meaning I wouldn't want a pink tummy on this bird and a pink head on the one below it. So it's like mixing and matching. So this front of the tummy is pink. Up here, the whole tummy is pink. Here, the head is pink. bouncing the colors of interest around in what looks like an even and you know, maybe I should throw caution in the wind and do what I want, but I tend to be a girl that likes everything symmetrical and balanced. So, even though I'm not. So, anyway, here it is. It's a sweet, sweet quilt to make. Now, I was telling you how you have to. Now, I'll come back to showing you what order you want to sew these in, because this quilt is available all over the internet. The pattern's only about $10. I highly recommend it. Wait till I show you the pictures. There was a woman in our class who did her birds in Stonehenge fabric. I went bonkers. It was so pretty. I believe it or not, I'm never going to make another Alaska. I'm never going to make another exploding heart, but I am going to make another sparrow quilt. It is so cute and I love it. Oh, so two things. Yes, Stonehenge. Two things to tell you. That one of the ladies made the birds face each other, which made them look like they were kissing, which then kind of made a heart effect of the bird bodies and gave you a space in between the two rows for some very special quilting. So I might play around with that idea and see what I think. I'm going to take one of the pages I printed out of a color scheme, cut the blocks out, and move them around to give it that effect. All right. Then there's one more thing you need to know if you're going to make this quilt, because it will give you a fit if you don't know it. All right. What I do when I make the quilt. Now, you can find the way that works for you. Whoops, let me bring this up again a little high. Whoop. Let me put the cord back in. Okay. Now, bring this up. All right. All right. So you make all your little components and you think, well, why do you make this one here instead of doing all four pieces? Because the way the pattern was written, these seams are not supposed to meet. And no matter what you do, they won't meet. If you tried to make them meet, then it would be too short down here. So please understand that when you cut the pieces out by the pattern, that these two seams will never meet. But when you're away from it, that looks perfect. Okay. When you're away from it, that looks perfect. So when we cut this piece here, it was cut shorter than the normal blocks. It's the same width, but it's shorter this way. And that's the way it's supposed to be. And this is such a cute pattern that I'm not going to criticize it. I love it just like it is. It's precious. All right. So now we come back to how do we put these components together? Well, this one, what you have is you have this strip. Then you have a square. And you can either draw your line on the back of square or do what I do, which is fold it in half diagonally and press it. And that way you get a pressing line. Now, so picture this is a block here. And then you see the line and you do this one folded up this way. So what you do is when you sew on the line, sew just one thread more that way. Don't sew right on the middle. Sew one thread away from the middle towards the side you're going to flip it to. And thank you, Mary. And I will tell you why you do that. So that, do you know when you fold fabric, it takes a touch of the fabric to do the fold. So if you sewed right on that line that you drew or pressed, it would come up a wee bit short. So if you sew just, they call it a scant 1/4 inch, or one thread past the center going on the side that you're going to fold it to, if you sew right along that one thread away, then you have extra room to fold it over. Some of you might think, well, then this doesn't meet right, but this is a 1/4 of an inch away. That's perfect. Then when you put a border on, you've got right there, you've got your beautiful point. You see? So so once you get that, you press it, it's even, then you cut the back 2 layers off. So if you'll notice right here, I cut the back 2 layers off to reduce the bulk. Then you sewed a rectangle to it. So you make this component. Now, on mine, there's 2 different ways you can do this. You can take, I took this rectangle, you do the same thing. You take a light blue square, it fits like this. You've got your line, you sew just on this side of the line. You flip it over. If it looks good, you cut away the back 2 surfaces right here to reduce the bulk. I took and put the eyeball on that. Because this is a small little rectangle, a small rectangle, and a longer rectangle, and you sew that together. So I put this component with this one. It was too important for me to get that together right, because here is his slanted forehead and the eye is down here. Don't be tempted to turn this around and put the eye up there. It would look like a very deformed birdie. So, but I put this part together. Now, if you want, you could go ahead and put this component with this component. Once again, this was a pink rectangle with a blue square. Do the same thing of sewing just to that side of the line back when this was a square. Press it over, trim the excess off the back. You could put these 2 together, but I wanted to make sure I had the head the same across. So I took this component and sewed it to this component, making sure that I had the shape of the head correct. Then what you do to make this piece big enough for this piece, you sew this component, which is just the 2 pieces, the half square triangle and the rectangle. So I sewed this together. This is my first section right here. Then I came and decided what chest color and what body color and sewed those 2 together. Now, when you do that, guess what? They fit perfectly. So then you sew this section to this section and you've got the perfect fit. And try very hard to make sure that everything lines up. Now, there were some that trying to get the seam allowances to line up perfectly was really tricky. And like you see right here, I am probably going to try one more time to take this out and line it up just a touch better, because you want those geometric lines. They make it really pop. And Joni says, I love that pattern so much. When you showed it, I bought it. Oh, good. Because you love Scrappy, you thought the fat 1/4 version would be fun. Yeah, it gets a little chaotic. It's so funny because it's a simple pattern, but you have to keep all the components in mind. What I did is had Mark bring me, when I got home, I had Mark bring me a folding table that's like 2 by 4, and I laid the components in order. So I had enough room to keep everything straight. But and like I said, making all the components this way or that is, I think, important, so that then you can lay the components in very neat order and you'll be more straight. But I used my seam ripper a lot. But yeah, doing it scrappy, I think, would give me a headache. So scrappy and my brain just do not work together My brain says Scrappy is too many choices for a girl who has a hard time picking ice cream flavors, you know? Oh, well, thank you, Mary. Frog seams. Rip it, rip it. Yes. So I put all this together, then sewed this on. Okay, so now you've got this. Then I came over and sewed this that now fits perfectly in here. Trying to get it, it should, if you're sewing very carefully, it should fit. But because it should be the same length and it should fall right into the right place. But you know about assuming. So now I've got this piece and all of this. Okay. So the next step, this is going to seem counterintuitive. It's going to make you feel like sew all of this together. No, no, no. Just get all of this done first. Then take your piece with the 2 half square triangles and the rectangle. And now this might look tricky to you. How did she do that? This was a blue rectangle with a gold square. Okay. And the gold square had a diagonal on it. And you stitch to that side of the diagonal, just one thread over. You flipped the whole half over. So now all of this to the corner was a big triangle. Then once you had it pressed and you cut off the excess, then you took another little blue square that had a diagonal line on it and you stitched it here, flipped it over, and then cut off the excess of the gold and the other side of the blue. And let me show you that from behind so you can see. So you had a rectangle of blue, you put the square, the gold square like this, stitched it here, flipped it over, ironed it good, made sure it fit right, and then cut away the excess. See where I cut away the excess? Then on just the gold part, you put another blue square and you stitched along the diagonal line. You flipped it over, pressed it, make sure it looks good, and then trim off the excess. So that's how you make that. It's not hard at all. And the wonderful pattern maker, I have forgotten her name, but she did such a good job because the size of the pieces, I thought, how am I going to get this lined up correctly? Well, the square dictated it. You just put it even with the bottom of the blue rectangle, bam, came out perfectly. So the pattern writer was very good, very careful. These were the first thing we did. We had big 8-inch blocks of the lighter blue and the darker blue. We made 8 half square triangles at a time, then cut them down to 2.5-inch squares, and then they fit beautifully. So these were 2.5-inch squares. This was a 2.5 by 2-inch rectangle. So follow the cutting directions. Also, one other thing, I decided I saw a quilt with these wonderful cornerstones. And I thought, oh, how fun that will be. So I took my most interesting color, the color that pops the most, and I cut these cornerstones. Well, one problem that I did, I was so busy to get something to show at the show and tell that I grabbed the first thin strip from my borders and bindings bag. Well, that strip was 2.5 inches. And when I put it on, I thought that looks too big. Something's wrong. But I was just so anxious. So when I got home, I kept up with the same 2.5 inches and did my sashing horizontally until I realized I had run out of the 2.5-inch strips. I went back into the borders and binding bag and realized that the other strips were all 2 inches. So I went back, when in doubt, read the directions, as my father always said, And I went back and read the pattern and realized that the 2.5 inches were supposed to be for a side border. The 2 inches was supposed to be the sashing. So I had to then get my seam ripper and take out all the sashing. I had sashing along here, sashing along the top, and in between all the blocks, take it all out, which now means that the border fabric is a little worse for wear after being torn all out. And I don't have enough fabric to cut it all back out again. I would need 4 width of fabric, and I could maybe get 1 out of what I have left. So I'm a little bit up that creep they talk about, but what I did is I pressed it really good. I'm going to starch it again. Pen and Paper Patterns, that's the pattern maker. Wonderful. Thank you, Miss Joni. I highly recommend. It's called Sparrow's Pen and Paper Patterns. So I love these little cornerstones. I had to recut those down from 2.5 to 2, but that wasn't a problem. Just iron it and get cutting. And then I use the 2 inch. What I'm going to have to do if I use those 2.5 inch pieces, because now they're like 15 inches, I'm going to have to sew them back together. And I hate that because like right here is a seam where 2 of these long strips went together. So I'm going to have a lot of those on going down the side border. But you know what I told myself? People are going to be looking at the birds. They're not going to be looking at fabric that's the same color. And if you look along here, look how many seams you see that are going to butt up to it. So I'm not going to worry about it. What do you think of that? So anyway, but now hopefully you understand. If I have explained it well enough, hopefully you won't have to fight it. Remember this seam right here, where these half square triangles meet this one. This seam does not line up. Never supposed to, never will. Okay. Now, the tricky thing next about this quilt, I would say this quilt is good enough for an adventurous beginner. So I consider myself, I hate to say it, it sounds rude, but I consider myself an expert or pretty close to it, and I still ripped a lot out. But I think that the beginner can do it. The trickiest thing in any of this are the half square triangles. But if you can make a half square triangle, you can do this quilt. Now, let me tell you about this piece. It's this one right here. Okay, I'll use this one because it's going the direction I wanted to show you anyway. Do you see this little birdie's tail? Well, I don't know what I did to the little birdie's tail, but it wouldn't match up with the body no matter what I did. So I took it out 3 times, and I want to show you, just so you know, I'm telling you the truth. Look at how the fabric got just beaten up. See how that fabric looks? It is beaten up. And in fact, where some of these threads were pulled, I need to go along and put fray check on all the places this fabric got beaten up. Because let me tell you, now, I know better than this, but I did it anyway. Okay, so I could not get this poor little birdie's tail to match no matter what I did. I have a rule that I only take something out and try to get it right 3 times. Because if you do it more than that, you are going to end up wrecking the fabric. The poor fabric can't handle it. Well, I didn't listen to that rule, and I was going to figure out I was in a hurry. I needed to get this done to show y'all today, which I still didn't get done. But what I did is I had it apart. I tried adjusting this seam. I tried adjusting this seam. Then I tried adding another piece of fabric somehow so they would meet. It got worse and worse and worse. So guess what I did? I went to have dinner. I talked to Mark about it. I said, I'm really messing up that quilt. And so I said, you know what? I've got some scraps left of enough for this and enough for that. I went and made a whole new piece. A whole new piece. It was the smartest thing. I should have done it the first time. I said, I spent 2 to 3 hours trying to somehow smudge, and yes, that is a quilting term, smudge. I spent 2 to 3 hours trying to smudge this to fit. Well, fabric's going to win. You think you can get, unless it's something small, the fabric's always going to win. But making this new piece right here, I was then able to place it in. And within a half an hour after making this piece, it was in pretty nice. I told Mark I should have done that at first. I mean, sometimes we get our head in so close to this quilt that we lose our common sense. So just remember, when you're having a problem, pull your head out of the problem and take a break, eat a snack or dinner, and come back and try it again. So this was done so quickly, I didn't have to spend 3 hours beating up this poor quilt. If you think this fabric looks beaten up, you should have seen the original piece. It got thrown away. Done, done. All right. So in this, you see now the birdie is facing the opposite way. This is where it gets tricky. What I chose to do is not mix my metaphors. So when I made all of these at once that were going the opposite way, and I keep the two separate because it is so easy to pick the wrong piece. So I first made everything that was going this way, made all the components, and they were in their little, in fact, you know what? I did the first row because doing the first row, which is 4 blocks, it kind of made me feel better, like I was getting somewhere. But then I said, before I had to do these, I made sure all the components were made and I keep them totally separate. I put them in separate baggies and labeled them bird facing left, bird facing right. Because if you don't, you will get them confused. And you'll try to make something from one bird fit the other, and it won't work. So I put on a good audio book. I got all of the components for this done. Then I said, okay, now I'll do this row. And that's why having a big table to put all the components out and keep them in two separate, if you have to, put a little sign saying left facing bird, right facing bird. Keep them totally separate from each other. And then if you want, what you can do to put this little bird together, see how he's facing that way? You can take the row you've already done, flip it like this. This is one thing the teacher taught me, bless her soul. It was a great one. Lay the block this way. A block you've already made going the opposite way. Lay it out, and there is your blueprint to make the bird that faces the other way. You see what I'm saying? Just ignore the seams and go, okay, I need the beak to look like piece to look like this. I need, and it just shows you, now, maybe some of you are really good with this and your brains aren't like mine, which get really confused when things turn backwards. But this was a great way to look at it and help. or take a picture of the bird in the pattern, because I mean, and flip it. The pattern, when I was looking, the pattern to make the actual components, it was only going one way. So, but this will help you put it right in front of you when you're making the bird, and you won't make the same mistake. But I love this. I want to experiment. How am I going to? Why do I want to make another one? What do I want that to mean? I would like to do something with the background fabric. I'm not sure. One woman had a background fabric that had it was a modeled, but it was done really beautifully. And oh, thank you. Oh, hi, Michelle the Quilter. Take photos of your steps. That's perfect. And but I would like to experiment with a background, maybe one that has a few little clouds in it, or maybe this one woman had, it was blue and almost a black, not really swirled. It was hard to explain, but I really liked it. So what I'm going to do is I found a printout of the pattern that pardon me, a printout of the pattern that was just a black and white drawing, which means then you could sit with your coloring pencils and you could figure out how you want to make your next one. So, because I want to experiment with the background and I want to experiment with the bird. I'd like to get some bird fabric that maybe looks like has swirls in it to look like feathers. I'm not sure. So, like wind, I like that, Joni. Because you know what I was thinking? Then you could come in with contrasting quilting thread and do what looks like branches and leaves, like they're sitting in the trees. So I think, or snowflakes, I love that. So and then one lady tried to did some blocks where she tried to use realistic colors. That looked really cool too. So I think that this pattern is a good enough pattern. It's going to give me a lot of things to play with. And I am sorry. I wish this fabric, I wanted it to be a blue green. Well, it's a nice grade blue, but I wish it had a little bit of a greenish cast to it. Not really a teal, but somewhere like a grayed out um, blue teal. But I've even thought, you know what? I could come in here with some dye. I don't know, but could I come in with some dye and dye the fabric? Or maybe I'll just leave this as it is and do a second one. So, anyway, I think I've told you everything I know from here. Now, I think that since I've done the pink cornerstones, I might come in with a pink inner border somewhere or a pink flange. I also thought it might be fun to do some quilting that looked like feathers on the birds. I don't know. My mind is still kind of what I need to do. Don't dye it. It's beautiful. Okay. Thank you, Joni. I was worried that it was too blah because it was supposed to be a blue green. But I maybe what I'll do then is choose just a slightly lighter or darker. Yes, that's just what I was going to say, Joni. Hi, Carol. Nice to see you. So anyway, there's a lot of things I can do with this. I mean, when I quilted, I could outline a little wing, just light feathering. I don't know. So what I think I will do. So let's carry that thought on. Let's say I like with the tails, could I do the quilting with some feathering lines? What I would do first before I mess up the quilt, What you do is, have you seen that saran wrap that you can get that you can lay on fabric and it kind of will stick a little bit? Or a heavier piece of clear vinyl, lay it on top, take a dry erase marker, and try some of the things I'm thinking about. See how it looks before I actually do those quilting. So, you see what I'm saying? Hi, Charlene. Oh, it's so good to see all of you. So but if that you can get that saran wrap or clear vinyl, lay it on, use dry erase markers so then you can erase it and try something different. That's the best way to audition quilting patterns without messing up your quilt. All right, so that's about the best I've got to tell you about this. And the original teacher of the class couldn't teach because her sister had fallen and broken her femur and was just out of the hospital trying to teach her own class. So she got a substitute in, and we were taught by a substitute. So I had also gotten a sparrow necklace for the teacher. And I asked the original teacher, I said, I brought a present. Should I give it to you or should I give it to you, the substitute teacher? She said, give it to the substitute teacher. But I was so touched with how she gave up her class to help her sister be there that I thought, I still want to give her so I gave her my necklace and she seemed happy to take it. I was happy. So, okay. So this year's Myrtle Beach Quilt Party was wonderful. And remember last year I complained there had been people taking 3 desserts, so some of us got nothing or nothing we wanted to eat. This year they said, take 1, please. So the word got out. And they also had servers there serving the entree, I think just to make sure people didn't go crazy. So I thought that was kind of funny, but it was great. I got remember. Oh, I forgot to bring my notebook down. I think. Let me see. Because I did bring it down. I took these iron-on decals, t-shirts. You can put them on sweatshirts, t-shirts. Put them on totes, whatever. I sold a mess of these. So that went over really well. And it's mostly just pocket money because if I pay $1.70 for one of these, I might charge $3. So I don't even double it. I just put a little something on there because it's fun for me to sell stuff. So anyway, I have some leftovers, but I'll show you those another day. But that was fun. We did that Thursday night. Wednesday night was teachers show and tell. Friday night was our show and tell where we could bring things we've been working on, or like I did, bring 2 quilts from past Myrtle Beach Quilt Parties and show your progress. You got them done. And I was very happy. Oh, I got to tell you, I always tell on myself because, hey, that's the part of the story. When I took both of these quilts, they looked finished, but there were a couple areas there were still pins in them that needed to be finished. So I made sure that Monday night and Tuesday night, because I got there early, that I finished them. So when they were shown, they were truly done. That's what it takes for Deb to get something totally done. Oh, yeah, the desserts. It made me so angry because these people just got too many desserts. And we got up there and there was like nothing left. And because they call you by tables, I want to see who's here. And then I've got a bunch of more stuff to show you. But okay. So Mary's the first person here. Yay, Mary. Then Joni. Hi, Joni. And I saw Marcia here. I was getting worried about where my Marcia was, and she had written me a couple notes on some of the videos going, did you change things? And I'm so sorry, Marcia. I should have made sure that you knew I was going to Myrtle Beach. I would do that show late, and I did it on Monday. And then yet last week when I came home, I knew I was going to be too tired to do a show, and I didn't get in until 4:30. So I'd have missed it anyway. And it was so nice. Oh my gosh, Dolores is here. So Joni's here. Mary, Joni, Joe is here. Dolores, hello, beautiful lady. And Bonnie, yay. And Bonnie, I have a picture. Bonnie would like to get some advice on a wall hanging she's got. I'll have to show it to you. And if y'all then can give her some advice. Also know if you belong to our group's IO, you can go on there and give her good advice too. Mitty is here and Mare is here. Hi, hon. And Marcia, but it's good to see our Marcia. We love our Marcia. So I did answer back when I saw them, but I tell you what, I always feel guilty when I lose contact with you, but I just needed to be in the moment. So when I went up 2 days early, I slept and relaxed and finished the quilts. Then I was so busy. Once the registration starts, it's busy. And then when I got home, I was absolutely exhausted. Now, I take that as a good sign. If you go somewhere and you come home worn out, that means you had fun, you gave it all you had, and I came home and I have slept most of the week. So it was good fun. So I kind of stayed off the computer, and plus, remember, Mark is retired now, so I enjoyed my time with him. Okay. So Laura's here too. And Kathy Klein. Hi, sweetie. Boy, it is so good to see you guys. Michelle, the quilter. I love it. Cheryl Hogan. So Lisa's here. I bet you if you could hear the way Lisa's still talking, she was a sick little puppy. I was telling the ladies in class, well, she had her shoulder operated on in August. Then Hurricane Helene, hit her and structurally damaged her house in end of September. And then she's just worn out. She's had so much going on, been so busy running around, getting the contractor to do the repairs and all of that. She just finally, and you know what? I told her too, if I were you can do this quilt later. You could do this quilt with your eyes closed. And because she's a very good quilter. And I said, that way, enjoy the hotel room, enjoy the relaxation. So she was telling people, yeah, I didn't have to go downstairs. I just had a microwave and a little fridge in the room. And so that was good. Because I said, you know what? We don't allow ourselves to rest good when we're home. There's always too many things that want our attention. So I was glad she took it easy. All right, so now let's see. I don't want to miss anybody. And so it's so nice that Bonnie's here and Joe. Monkey Mary. Pat is here. Oh, Pat, I've got a picture of what Myrtle Beach looked like after we left. It was a good thing we left on Sunday because I think a couple days later, they did get hit with snow. And who would have thought Myrtle Beach with snow? So the Siberian wind is back. Oh, it's so good to see you. And our Joni is here. It is wonderful to see all of you. I hope I haven't missed a single person because y'all are all so special. It's so funny because this morning I woke up a little earlier, but because I thought I've got so much to do to get ready for the class. And I was sitting there trying to work on the class and I was nodding off. And because Mark and I stayed up, we stayed up till like 1. And then I stayed up because I was excited about the show today till 3 and tried to get back up and too early. But I couldn't wait to see y'all. All right, I'm hope Charlene Lawson is here. This is so good. Dolores spent 21 days doing just get it done declutter challenge. Oh, it only took you 2 hours to destroy it. You know what I was thinking? I was thinking I might start a little mini series where I take one unit a day and clean everything in it, deciding what gets thrown away, what gets given away, and what gets put away. So I am thinking of that because I keep complaining about the condition of my room. It's only going to get better if I buckle down and do the work. So if I do, I'll probably take you with me. So, but good for you for doing the challenge. I don't know about you, Dolores. I have so many artistic interests. I want to have a place for each one, a place for basket weaving, a place for quilting, a place for embroidery, a place for bobbin lace. And I know I can go to that place and find everything I need. And that's frustrating because right now it's like a great big pot of stew. Everything's all mixed up. And you know what? Getting to be my age, that stops me from working sometimes. I'll think, oh, I'd like to do this. Oh, I don't know where that is. I'd have to go looking for it. So I need to get it more organized. You just did that with your stuff, Carol. Each bookcase has its own stuff. Oh, Carol, boy, if you didn't live in another country, I'd have you down here helping me. So that is wonderful, Carol. That's just what you need to do because our clutter gets in our way. Our clutter keeps us from doing what we love. And you know what? Get to my age, you start saying, time's running low. I don't have time to mess with this anymore. I've got to get busy. I deserve to have this place clean where I know where everything is. So let's see, especially once I tell y'all I do better about keeping things clean. So Mary follows Marie Kondo's. Yep, that is great. Carol says it gets depressing when you can't find what you want. Exactly. And like upstairs in my frame room right now, my marker art is in there. Some of my leftover Christmas art is in there. I mean, it's just a clutter. And I have a big dresser in there that would really be wonderful to keep, like maybe my paper piecing supply, paper bead making supplies, but I have just junk in it. Why don't I take time to clean out that dresser and then I've got a whole nice space for my paper bead making? Yes. So speaking of paper beads, I've got a few good things to show you. And Miss Bonnie, I love our Miss Bonnie. She sent me a note about how to keep the bobbins organized. We're talking about from floss, different kinds of flosses or wool, whatever you do hand embroidery with. I did do a few cool things, and let me get everything out of my bag. I forgot to take it out. Let's see. And this thing really helped me on my trip. I kept my phone in here. I kept my credit card and cash in here. And with putting the phone in here, I could use it to open my hotel room door. And then I bought myself a very high decibel whistle, because when I go traveling by myself, it just kind of helped me feel a little more secure. But you know what? Nothing bad happened. It was all good. Okay, let's see what else. Oh, I did get something in from the store. And, oh, I forgot about this. Boy, I have so much to show you. Doesn't it always go this way that I get down here? So, ooh, I forgot that. I forgot that. Okay, I'm going to pick up one thing off the floor. Grab this. Oh, that floor gets farther and farther away from me with age. So in the Myrtle Beach Quilt Party, they have a little prize section, but when we come in, everyone gets their own Myrtle Beach tote. Myrtle Beach Quilt Party 2025. I want to say hi. Now I've forgotten her name. I had 3 people come up and say, I recognize your voice, or I watch your show, and that's why I came this year to Myrtle Beach because you talked about it so much. I was so tickled. I remember the first time I had started a year after I started this channel. I went to Mid-Atlantic Quilt Show, and somebody recognized me, and I was so excited. Well, I've been doing this now almost 8 years, and I never think about people recognizing me anymore because it's a small channel. It makes me happy, but I'm not setting the world on fire. So when I had 3 people come up to me, I was thrilled. My little heart went pitty pat. So I thought that was wonderful. So I'm going to show you a few things. So we had little tchotchkes to choose from to go in our Myrtle Beach Quilt Party bag. And one was a little needle threader, a little personal size emery board, which I've been needing because my fingernails are a mess, a nice little sharp seam ripper, which I tend to go through a lot, and some little snips. So, as you notice, I color coded mine for my favorite color, which is blue. All right. And this is one of my old little necklace things I had taken from years ago. Okay. Get all my stuff together. Now, I think you're going to be a little surprised. I didn't even visit the vendors. I feel bad about that, but I got so excited about trying to work on this quilt because normally when we get up for that Saturday night after the banquet, we all get up by group, by classes, and show what we got done. Usually I'm just holding a bunch of pieces or one little block. So this time I wanted to hold up more. But then when I got home, I was too tired to sew right away. I was exhausted. So what did I do? I looked down one evening and there was an Ethan Allen furniture catalog that I had gotten in the mail. Whoops. Now, you know what? The light is not allowing it to really show. But I get so excited when I find Ethan Allen catalogs because the colors in them are so beautiful. So I'm definitely going to go through all of my paper beads and I'm going to make some wonderful necklaces. I love the sages and the tans and the browns and the grays, but I made this. I used the whole catalog. I cut them in long strips and I rolled them all up in one night. And this to me represents the best of paper bead making. And in fact, on my trip, I took 2 of my paper bead necklaces and I like them because they're so lightweight. But I made all of these paper beads one night and that was a lot of fun. Also, paper bead making is very nice for your your arthritic hands. It helps you do something to keep busy. I got an order in, which some more of these. This is by Pentel, which is a whoops. This is by Pentel, which is a good art company. And I love these erasers. Now, I've noticed these are the erasers I use on fabric, anything, because I don't want any dyes in them that will then bleed out onto the fabric when you're working on design. And you can use these when you're doing embroidery pattern transfers, whatever. So I have these on automatic delivery. Every 6 months I get a new pack. And so they are great. Then one night I sat down and I said, I want to do some more of my dot painting. Now let me pull out. There's one thing I'm going to change though. I use all metallic paints. The problem is it's too reflective. So now that I'm getting better at it, also being so reflective, when it takes you, whoops, let me find right. Look, take your finger off. When it takes you several strokes to get the paint on, being so reflective, it shows. So I'm going to switch over to only doing accents with my metallic paint and using the matte paints for the design. But I'm getting better and better. It just takes time. Takes time. So that's one thing that I did this week. Then another thing was after reading Miss Bonnie teach me how to take care of your flosses. And believe it or not, I got one of those big bags. I mean, lots of skeins. And so I wanted the plastic bead holders. So I got those. I wrote the number of the color and then wound them. Now they had the bag of the plastic bobbins, because these are called bobbins. They had a turner, but it was pretty cheap, and I found it I'm faster if I do it by hand. Just take it, you hook. Let me show you. You hook your thread under one of these, and you hold it with your back finger, and then you just start winding. And I try to keep them as smooth as I can. What do you do so the fabric isn't so stiff? What was I talking about just before this? Hmm. What what fabric, Debbie? Give me a better idea. But anyway, I like this system. I'm going to get them put in a box. That way, I'm hoping they won't get all tangled and I can easily find the color I want. The neighbor cows got out yesterday. Oh, no. Oh, honey, those Black Angus were going to get into your garden. All right. So now, when I was at that yard sale that I did some selling on, let me see which way. Okay. When I was at that yard sale that I did some selling, I noticed they had a giveaway table. So I went over and looked at the giveaway table. And what I found were these. Somebody evidently was an upholstery salesperson or knew of an upholstery salesperson and had all of these samples. And these are the samples like you can find in a book when you go to a furniture store, or sometimes wallpaper stores will have fabric swatches. And I looked at these. I had read an article not too long ago about using this woman makes landscapes using any kind of fabric. It doesn't have to be pure cotton. She even said she uses some upholstery fabric. I saw this and thought, what if I could use this and it could be in a landscape and it could be a farmer's field, or this could be used for tree bark. And you know what? Anymore, remember, the sky's the limit. Look at this. This could be far away fields with different crops in them. So I went over and just looked. This would be a great hayfield out somewhere. And Dolores says she uses a lot of upholstery fabric. So, when I looked at this, I thought, wow. But, this always, we love doing fields, farmers' fields. Look at this. This could be a fall farmer's field, or you could cut some tree lines out of all of this. But I just went through and said, do I see this somewhere? This would be great as a line of mountains, because don't look at the whole thing. Look at a little piece that might show what, yes. So, and look at this. Isn't that wonderful? So I just said, you know what? Look at them with a different eye. Look at them just little pieces and think, could I do something with this? Look at this one. Wouldn't that be wonderful on a mountain or in a field? When you paint the muslin fabric, it's so stiff when dry. Oh, yeah, add more medium, but be careful now. The medium is kind of plasticky. Sometimes when you paint on muslin, you might need to thin the paint down, but definitely use medium because that bonds it to the fabric. But remember that if you put enough layers of textile medium, it forms like a plastic, like as if you had put vinyl on the fabric. So it's just a combination of fabric medium. Now look at this there. Can you imagine, in a tree line, like a fall scene? So what I want you to do here is look at fabric a little differently and see what could you do with that. So I grabbed these off of the free table and decide which side. Some shows up differently depending on what side you use. And look at this. Oh my goodness. But you can use that side. So I just found this fascinating. Here's another great tree bark or cabin in the distance. I mean, look at all this. This could be a rustic stone wall. So just kind of use your imagination. Look at that. We've been so conditioned that we think we're only supposed to use 100% cotton. Now this would be a great faded mountain in the background. That's what the front looks like, but picture that as a mountain. But look at these fine lines. This is wonderful for a swath of a meadow in the background. So just thought I would show you that there is a lot that there's just so much out there. And oh, this is a real thick one, but that would be pretty good for tree bark too, or a barn, you know. And then you can always, now here is another one. Pick what side, and then look at a small amount. And this would make an interesting tree line. And this. Now, let's say I don't find something to do. This could be great, like a little stream running along. But if not, then stitch it together along the sides, put a zipper in the top, and you've got a little pouch. Or you've got, make your own fabric book of hand embroidery stitches, and one of these can be the cover. So there's just, oh, this looks very different depending on what side you have it. But I just thought, oh, look at that. Wouldn't that be a beautiful mountain? Coming like that. Just, whoops, that would be a beautiful mountain. And this, oh, look at that. That side would be beautiful for a mountain in the distance. Same with this. Oh, I think I'd use this side. But anyway, I just thought I would show you. I started to walk past the table when I didn't see anything, and I saw these. And ever since I read the article in Quilting Arts magazine where the woman says, I use upholstery fabric, I use whatever fabric comes my way, and talk about the texture that this will give you without you really doing anything. So just keep your eyes open, and you'll be surprised. So now, here's my last thing before we go do show and tell. I was sitting here Oh, and this is another pattern I'll put in with free patterns. We need to have, I need to get back to the pattern giveaway that I started a month ago. And I promise I've got it written down. I will get to it. But I was looking at Bear Creek Quilts. They're in Oregon and they have gorgeous fabrics. And I saw this fabric and went bonkers. This is Xanadu by Ann Lara of Grizzly Gulch Gallery. And this is by Bernitex. Okay. She had this. They had this on sale for $7 a yard. Well, it was just after Christmas, but I didn't really ask for too much for Christmas. But look, let me bring the camera back up. I want you to get an idea about this. Whoops. Okay. Look at the colors and the pattern on this. I love jewel tones. And to me, this was gorgeous. Now, this could be, this, you really would enjoy this in bigger pieces than smaller ones. In fact, you could do a center medallion with this almost like it's a panel and then do a quilt around it. You could also, what I've done before with a fabric that has this beautiful a design, is do a broderie purse technique where you cut all around the object in the fabric, leaving quarter of an inch or so around the edge, and then applique it on to a different fabric. And I'll have to show you some of those that I've done before because they're really pretty. Broderie purse means Persian embroidery. It's a Persian style embroidery, and it's a way to take a very expensive fabric, take the best parts of it out, cut it out, and put it on a less expensive fabric so you can make your own design bedspread. And people used to do that a lot in the colonial days. And because some of the really nice prints were very expensive. I got some of this color, which is part of the collection, because this wine kind of color, plum, I don't have much wine or plum fabric. But what I did is instead of buying too much of the fabric, I chose the focus that I loved and then looked what would go along with it. But since I love these colors so much, I have a lot of fabrics. I have a lot of my own stash that would go with this. So it was like I didn't want to spend much money. It had just been Christmas. So this is also part of that collection. So I just bought 4 yards at $7 a yard, which I think is pretty restrained of me. So look at this. Is this just and since 2 of the pieces have a white background, I said, look at that. That's why it's a collection. But isn't that beautiful? And you know what you could even do? I mean, you could do a Zentangle and paint it yourself with your acrylic paints with textile medium in them. But I know I can find some purples out of my stash. I can find some teals, all that to go with this. And now what I'll do is figure out what kind of pattern would I do with it. But isn't that just beautiful? I in fact I think I started to tell you this and got distracted, squirrel, but I didn't even visit the vendors, and I feel badly because they came and set everything up, and we're so lucky to have people who are willing to come and do vending there. And I think there were 3 or 4 vendors, and normally I have found some wonderful things from the vendors there. But I was so busy working on the quilt, and I don't know, I just never made it down there. I was up on the 5th floor, and all this was down at ground level. So, but coming home to that and what Miss Lisa gave me, I think I made out pretty good. So anyway, but I hope they probably had some really exotic notion that I really needed. Now I'll never know. So anyway, okay, well, let me turn off lights. We've got lots and lots. Boy, it's bright out here, let me tell you. So let's go look at, let me see. Oh, I didn't show you my New Year's mystery. Remember on New Year's Day, we did a jitsi and a mystery? Um, I will show you that next week. Next week, we'll also do the drawings for the free patterns. I've got to get back to the undersea at some point, but I'm moving forward like a freight train with doing some hand embroidery, showing you some 3-dimensional techniques. Also, I'll be talking about how do you know whether you're getting a legitimate hand embroidery pattern or was it designed by AI? The problem if it was designed by AI is you might not be able to recreate what you see. And so I watched a wonderful gal on YouTube who talked about how to tell AI, the fake from the real, because you don't want to waste money with something that is totally made up and there's no way for you to do it. So I'll just tell you real quick. She showed a pumpkin and the stitching going around, and it made it look like that you could do one stitch that would follow the curve of the pumpkin. Well, that's not the way hand embroidery works. You can only do straight lines in hand embroidery. You can't do curved lines. So if you did a curved line, you'd have to do multiple little sections of stitch. So anyway, but it's good not to be taken advantage of because they want you to spend money. And if you can't use it, that's a huge waste of money. So we're going to, the new things we're going to focus. We're going to do strip landscaping, which is like this. And I have a picture and show and tell of one that I did a year ago that I'll show you. Then we're going to do the 3D hand embroidery. And that, and in some ways, it's kind of I saw a gal do little flower petals on a Q-tip and with the needle and the floss and then pulls it off and it makes the flower petals because I'm really intrigued by the whole 3D and or taking little bits of stuffing like you stuff toys with and doing some stitches, putting the stuffing under it. So then when you do the regular stitches, it puffs up the work you're doing. So I'm very fascinated, but be careful out there because a lot of this really exotic handwork they do is impossible. It's all done artificially. Okay, then let me see. I showed you the dot mandala, the stenciled Oh, remember a month ago, I did the stenciled fabric where I took a stencil, took acrylic paint, thickened it with some baking soda, and then took and brushed it on across the stencil and on the fabric, and then did like opposite colors and opposite patterns. Use the same fabric plain with a circle of the stenciled fabric. So I'm going to be finishing that up to show you because I heard someone say at the Myrtle Beach Quilt Party, I'm really into rainbows, and I am too now. I'm in my rainbow color phase, and so I want to get back to that. Then also the fabric I got for Christmas that I got from Robert Kaufman or or Hoffman. I think it was Hoffman, that already comes printed in 2.5-inch color squares. And so I'm going to make another color wash using the fabric. In fact, when I don't think I brought it down here, but when I was at the retreat, let me just check. Nope, it's not down here, but at the retreat, there was one evening that I sat there and started cutting out my 2.5-inch squares. And I found, well, it does waste some fabric because you have to have seam allowance all the way around the edge, which means if you want the square as printed, you can only use every other one in all directions. So I'm glad I got 5/8 of a yard and kind of bumped it up just a little. All right, so that will be coming up next week. So the strip landscape, hand embroidery, we'll start on that and wrap up a few of these things. I've got a busy week this week, I see. All right, and make sure to finish the New Year's Day mystery so I can show you that. Oh, there was a little sewing tip that I ran across, and I need to start writing down where I find these. I find them so rapidly, I forget to write it down. But this is on how do you coordinate fabric like this. And, I've told y'all in the past, Miss Jenny Beyer, I took a class from her telling us how to choose fabrics for a quilt. Now, you've got to be careful choosing from a collection because a lot of times if you only choose the collection, your quilt may turn out a little flat. So one of her biggest hints was always go lighter or darker than a couple of your colors. Don't ever just look at the dots printed on the selvage and pick that, because if you pick it exactly, and she showed us some quilts made where it's exactly, and where you do it a slightly light or dark, and it doesn't, like, let's say the quilt, there's one fabric in it that hints at lime green but it's not really lime green, then put lime green in it because that will pop out. I gotta send this message. Okay. I hope Mark reads that message. All right. So, all right. Oh, so this is how to coordinate. It says pick a focal fabric, one that you love or has a distinctive pattern or color scheme. This will be your hero fabric. Use the color wheel. Pick colors that complement or contrast with the dominant color of your focal fabric. You can go for analogous colors next to each other on the color wheel for harmonious look, or complementary colors opposite sides of the color wheel for something more vibrant. Incorporate neutrals. Now, this is good because I tend to forget this. Incorporate neutrals. Consider adding neutral fabrics like white, black, gray, or beige to balance out bold colors and patterns. That is so true because our eyes don't like just constant busyness. We all need a calm place to rest. Like if you look at this exploding heart, I chose a background that had color, but not too bright, because with all of those scraps, can you imagine if the background had been orange? That wouldn't have been a restful quilt to look at. Mixing patterns. You don't want the design to become too overwhelming. That's really important. Too much of a good thing is not good. Then mixing patterns. When combining patterns, vary the scale of the prints. For example, pair a large floral print with a small polka dot or stripe to create visual interest without overwhelming the eye. That is perfect. Fabric coordination is all about balancing colors and patterns and textures to create a cohesive and visually pleasing result. So it was good that I happened to, with along with this huge pattern, pick something like this to vary the size and create a more balanced quilt. So now let's get to show and tell. I have a lot of your photos and a few that I brought home with me as well. All right, let me move this microphone out of the way. Whoops, I can do this. I can do it, I promise. All right, now let's look. Sorry, I don't want to make you nauseous. Okay, now let me get my mouse and grab the pictures for you. I was cleaning out so many folders today because I couldn't find anything. All right, show and tell. Here we go. I will show you the Myrtle Beach pictures after we show all of your amazing works. So here is, this was Miss Alberta, her Alaska quilt that she wanted to make to commemorate her trip, her cruise to Alaska she took with her sister for her 80th birthday. What a lovely lady. All right, show and tell. Let's see. Bonnie. Bonnie has wants to get your advice, but she also has celebrated quilt. Whoops, whoops, whoops. She finished this quilt with her dragon. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize, but hopefully you can see. But it's a wonderful dragon quilt that she made, that she finished. And then now let's, this is a wall hanging she made, and she would like to know what next. What does she do? A multicolor border? Should she do a pattern or a stripe? What should she do about her binding? Right now, it's red, white, and green. Should she, you know, echo some of the colors, the green or the white, out into the outer border? So if you have any suggestions for Miss Bonnie, she actually came to us to ask, and I know you guys have suggestions. I can just tell y'all do. So please let her know. I love that we share our quilts with each other and ask for help. And so that's great. So make sure you can comment right now to Miss Bonnie, or you can go to our groups IO and let her know. Especially if you see an idea somewhere that you think would really finish this quilt well. So border and binding. All right. Now let's see. How do I? Okay. Now who is next? Oh, okay. Evidently, I have something. Let me see. No, not this. Well, I thought I organized this so I would have it just right. Nope, 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 nope. Huh. Well, I saw a picture. Hold on. Let me see. Hmm. I saw a picture under this folder. Hmm. Aha. Is it? No, nope, it's not that one. Well, I promise I'm going to find it, because what I wanted to show you, maybe is it in this? I didn't think it was. I wanted to show you that there is another, um, It's not this one. No. There is another Mancuso virtual classroom, and I can't wait. I'm going to go pick out my class to take. And if you are the type of person that likes to take classes online, I highly recommend. Well, I don't see it, but I saw it on the folder right there. It's in that folder. Let me see. Retreats. Well, what did it get in there for? Let me see. Mystery. Oh, is it spring retreat? Hold on. Sometimes when I'm working on these, my hand will put things in the wrong folder. Okay, so evidently it's in this one inside a folder. Well, well, I give up. Okay, let's go back to show and tell. I give up. Okay, now, oh, no, don't have any new work yet from Miss Debbie, but she's been very busy. So now, show and tell. Okay. Julie sent some new ones. Oh, I love her work. She's got a lot of talent. And wow, let me enlarge this just a wee bit. There we go. This is called Ron the Trapper. Isn't this awesome? Look at this. I love it. Julie, you have a lot of talent, hon. A lot of talent. And then her next one, look at this beautiful church in the snow with the moon out. And look at this one. Is this another trapper or a hunter, I guess? And look at how she did this. Look at these little matchstick pieces she cut out. Look at the snow on the trees, the gray winter sky. I love the quilting she did on that. I love the the pouches and the backpack he's carrying. Isn't that wonderful? Thank you, Miss Julie. You are very talented, hon. That's Todd's quilt, she said. Okay. Now, here is Miss Lisa's colorway that she is going to be doing of her sparrow quilt, among the other 150,000 things she has going on. But I love that colorway. Can't wait to see it come to fruition. Very nice. Okay, Miss Mary, Miss Mary, I promise I'm going to get back on this. I was thinking lately I've been wanting to do LaFleur, finish that. I've wanted to do the Alex Anderson neutral, but I want to get this done so I can start on Ruby Lane, which is our next English paper piecing project. Can't wait. Okay. Now let's see who's next. Marcia. Okay. Marcia went to the Tucson, Arizona quilt show. Now some of these might be turned a little sideways, but I was so thrilled that Marcia Hahn cared enough to show us these. And whoops, gotta turn it first. Turn it. And so here it got, look at that Bargello. But this is what she saw at the quilt show there. And I might not be able to show them all to you right now because there's a bunch of them. And it would have helped if I could have had time to edit. But isn't that beautiful? I love looking at quilt show photos because it inspires us. It will help you and envisioning one of your next projects. Look at that. That is a pelican get together for sure. I love that. In fact, Pat, I told Miss Lily that you said hello and you miss her. And she did a pelican. No, is it a pelican quilt? I think it was a pelican quilt. And we'll see what she does next year. I'd love to be able to take one of her classes again because she is a doll baby. Still teaching, but I definitely told her, Miss Pat made sure to tell me, to tell you hello. So, Pat Fry. Okay, look at this. This is a cactus, and this arm of the cactus sticks out about 6 inches from the piece. So I thought that was fascinating. And everything goes nowadays. So get out there and try it. If you can imagine it and you can create it, good for you. I love the freedom we have now with our art. Miss Dolores does too, because she does amazing imaginative things. Okay, look at that. Isn't that cool? Some partridges and a pear cactus. Okay. And here. Doesn't that look fun? Beads and buttons. Turn this. Look at this. That's amazing. It looks like it's a big Zentangle and then cut apart and put back together. Really cool. I'm going to do 2 more of these, and then I promise we will do the rest next week because they are fascinating. And there, so I appreciate it's hard work to take all of these photos. I used to go to a couple quilt shows and take photos, but it is hard work. Look at that. Oh, I love the little 3-dimensional flowers and butterfly. You can tell that this was set in Tucson because it has a lot of the desert theme in it. Look at that, the colors. And all right, so we will leave it here with this one. But thank you, Marsha Hahn. We're going to come back and start right up here next week. Thank you so much for taking the time to save all of those. Yeah, we didn't go far. We've got plenty more to show. All right, so now I'm going to go back to 1 second, show and tell. I can't wait to see the rest of these. And then Melanie, I saw this. This is not new from Melanie, but in looking, I saw this, and that is just so striking. It's a table runner with 3 different kinds of blocks, probably paper piece. Just beautiful. Okay, isn't that pretty? All right, then Melanie, over the holidays, went to Sault Ste. Marie, and that's up in northern Michigan. And she visited a quilt shop. It's called something about a moose, the Quilted Moose Quilt Shop. And this is way up in northern Michigan. And it's up in that little area that almost looks like it wouldn't fit in Michigan. And she loved the drive, said that the traffic was non-existent, beautiful big skies. They went over the Mackinac Bridge. Here she is driving. They went over the Mackinac Bridge, and she was reminding me of Mackinac Island. There's the Mackinac Bridge. It's the longest suspension bridge, I think one of the longest in this country, if not the longest. And she reminded me that in Mackinac Island, you cannot take cars. You have to do bicycles or buggies or such as that. But look at that wonderful suspension bridge. I think, did she say it was 5 miles or 15 miles long? Then she made these cuffs for dementia patients because they love the feeling of textures and it's very soothing. So she made some wonderful cuffs. And this, I assume, being a cuff, it can be put on their arms so they won't lose it. And then can then look at that fur. She's got like a bath scrubby and a piece of furry yarn and flannel, all those different feelings. Here is another one. That looks exciting. Everything attached to it. That is so nice. And her comment was that she loves having a purpose for her sewing. That's wonderful. Oh, that's neat. Chenille is a something very fun to touch. So way to go. Thank you for doing those things, Melanie. I know I owe you a um an email and I will get to it. I hope you saw the wonderful news that our Meltem shared with us. And each of you in this group is helped Miss Meltem discover her artistic taste and her knowledge base. All of you have supported her, and I just thank you all. She has an Etsy shop called Swan Quilt Art. But this quilt she actually sold, and it is a beauty. She did an outstanding job making this. And so it was just recently displayed at the California Road to California Quilt Show. That's Miss Meltem's quilt that came from Turkey to California. Isn't that exciting? Swan Quilt Art is the name of her Etsy shop, and there is her quilt. How exciting to have your quilt displayed. Oh, this is her latest art quilt. Just gorgeous. I love, love, love this. So she is really finding her voice. I'm so tickled for her. And here is the message from the Quilt Space team. We're so proud to feature Meltem's beautiful quilt at our Quilt Space booth at Road to California this year. Congratulations. Isn't that wonderful? So I can only imagine how excited she was to know that her quilt was on display. I love this. Just love it. Okay, so thank you and congratulations, Miss Melton. We're so proud of you. Okay, Miss Polly has a wonderful, wonderful tartan bed runner that she wove from her own loom. I'll get it right. I'm sure that her loom is in a room and she wove this for her son for Christmas. I know he's going to treasure it. She's so talented, so very talented. And I just wanted to show you, I noticed on the Quilt Show email newsletter the other day, they were talking about Miss, um, hold on, I know her name, Kestrel Michaud. Um, and she won Houston the wonderful award. And isn't that just beautiful? So I thought, yeah, because our Oops, let me get okay. Because our Cheryl saw her and took that photo at the Houston Quilt Show. So I tell you what, we get around, don't we? We do get around. Okay, let me see. Nope, don't want that. Okay, so now I'm going to go back up to the Myrtle Beach Quilt Party, and in no particular order, I'm just going to show you some of the photos from there. That's the first night, the hotel. They have these slides, these water slides. The first one drops straight down and out. I would not go on one of those things for any amount of money. Then this is a huge swimming pool, and these are lounge chairs in the top shallow part of the pool. Here I am holding the Sparrow's quilt before I ripped it all apart. But I just want you to notice, oh, look at this with the floral design. Isn't that exciting? Fussy cut. Look at all of this. There were just so many wonderful ideas. Maisie, hush. Whoops. Hold on. I'm sorry. What am I doing? Let me try this again. Hold on. I'm going to do this again. Okay. I showed my quilt. All right. Now, this one is one of this quilt. Somebody, wait a minute. I don't know if someone at the show showed it or did I? No, this must be something I found online that I thought was really cool, because that's too perfectly edited to have been something I took. All right, here we go. This is my class, the last night at our banquet. And here, this is the woman who did the amazing Stonehenge birds. But look at each of those. They each have their own special touch, their own colors, and they're just beautiful. Just beautiful. Okay. Here, I took some ham and pasta salad, some homemade rolls, and a salad making stuff. And here we go, Miss Pat. This is Myrtle Beach in the snow. I just think that is such a hoot. Mark found that picture online for me. And then here's a picture at daytime of those amazing water slides, which, oh my gosh, that just makes me nauseous thinking about it. And it's a horseshoe hotel with a pier out there. Unfortunately, the weather was a little too chilly. That's me just getting there. I'm so happy. Yay, I'm here. And I'd carried everything into the room. Here was a picture. One night I came back to the room, and I love, whoops, back out just a touch. I love the moon reflecting off the water. Come on. I love the moon reflecting off the water. Okay. This is a beautiful shot. Now, I know, is this, I don't think I took this. I think this was one, no, this had to have been one of Lisa's. Isn't that just exquisite? That is, I mean, she's got a good camera. That is beautiful, Miss Lisa. And yeah, another picture of our bird class. And my little travel machine set up. And Lisa was on that side of the table. Well, her machine was. We missed her. Here is another picture of that resort. Whoops. And, oh, no. Okay, I thought I skipped one. This is another image of the moon shining on the water. I just love that. Another of Miss Lisa's pictures. This is from a brochure. They've got a lazy river in the other part. Oh, another picture of our class. Sorry, I got lots of pictures. Then I sent this to my kids saying, "This is Mark shoveling the driveway so I could leave." It's just a joke, but I just thought that was so cute. I said, "Is he saying I want to help her get to her class, or is he saying I'm making sure she gets the heck out of here?" So this is where I left. There was snow all over, the snow and ice, but I just took it easy and I made it out of the neighborhood. But that's how it was when I left. And here is Myrtle Beach, the sign right near the airport that I got there. There's the sign again. I was so excited. I just looking at these pictures make me excited. These are just pictures from the drive into the beach. And a little amusement park putt-putt place that's near the hotel. And look at all those high rises that just line the road. Oh, and I love this picture because that's the moon coming out early. Well, I guess it was always there, but and this is the hotel that we stayed at, the Ellie part of the Hilton DoubleTree. There it is. Another view out my balcony. I can't afford to go there in the summer, so I just have to look at that fancy pool. But I was just taking this as I was driving down the road just to give you a little idea of, like, that was a truly, the lights were purple shining on that hotel. Here is the teacher for the class and her quilt design. And in this, you might not be able to see, but there are light blue little cornerstones. And I loved that idea, so I grabbed it. Okay. Here, these are the teacher's quilts. I just loved them. They were just cute as can be. That's part of what looks, no, it reminds me almost of part of the Alaska, but it's not. That looks like a binding tool quilt. Isn't that pretty? I just love the colors. So the teachers that teach at Myrtle Beach, they come and bring some quilts they've been working on that we can enjoy. And that's shown the first night. There's Miss Lily with her pelican. That's the, whoops, that was the class she taught. Well, you know what? We're already, that might have been a happy accident. We're running way over today. So next week, when we start, when we do our show and tell, I'm going to make sure to show you the rest because I know you don't have all day to spend with me. You've got things you want to do. So let me come back to y'all. And I think what I'm going to do, if you don't mind, is show the rest of the Myrtle Beach quilt pictures along with the Tucson Quilt Show. I'll show them to you next week. So I hope that if you have any questions, you always feel free to ask. And I can't wait to start on some of these fun new projects for you. So I will see you next Sunday, our normal time, which is 3:05 p.m. Eastern time. So I'll see you next Sunday. And hopefully I'll have a few good things to show you. Take good care. Do something special just for you. Stay warm. Stay happy. Bye-bye, everyone. Take good care. It was wonderful to see you all. Take good care. Bye-bye, everyone. You're the best.